Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how I edit my watercolor artwork for print. A lot of times when you paint a watercolor, the paper has a lot of texture left and you'll see me select it here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to create a duplicate layer of your artwork, and that's the layer you're going to work with primarily. Next, go ahead and select levels. And I apologize, when I started working on this video, I thought it was capturing all the windows. So all you get is my cursor and the background window. So on that second layer, select levels, and you're going to drag the bar over until you've got a nice contrast. The darks become a lot darker and stand out a little bit more. The next step is to go into that same layers editing tool, and you're going to select threshold, and you're going to bring that bar all the way over. You'll see how I am dragging it over until it turns almost all black, like a really bad photocopy, and you don't want it that dark. You want to drag it until the edges look fairly similar to the edges that you're going to want to keep in the end result. I usually adjust it all the way up and then go down a step or two, and that way I capture just the most amount of color that I can without keeping a bunch of that background texture. Then go ahead and merge those layers down. After each of these steps, if you're happy with it, merge that top layer down so that you still have just the two layers you are working with. The next step you're going to do is go up to Filter, and you're going to select Noise, and then go over to Dust and Scratches, and that'll bring up another window where you get to select the level of the dust and scratches that you want to try and weed out. I usually keep mine at about a 2 or a 3. I keep it pretty low. Again, here you can play with it and find a level that works good for you, and I like to zoom in and see what it's going to look like. And you can see a preview of your final result. And again, you want to get it as close as you can to um, the the look you're going for. I like mine to be as smooth as possible without taking away too many of the details and fine lines. Next, you're going to zoom in. Go ahead and merge that layer down if it hasn't already. I think that filter automatically applies. Then you're going to go over to pencil so that you get just black and white, and go ahead and smooth out those lines. Here's where you get to draw a little bit. I like to just click and then hold the shift key and click the next point, and that gives you a straight line. That saves quite a bit of time and precision work that you have to try to draw with the mouse. Here it may be helpful to change the opacity of that top layer that you're working on so that you can see that even where it picked up some of the layer, some of the color, you may not want to keep it, like the top, that side of the F there. I didn't want to keep that lighter layer. And then you just smooth out the edges, keeping in mind that as you go, you are going to be keeping ultimately what's going to be the black area. So anything you draw in white will ultimately be deleted, and the black is what you're keeping. So if you have an area that is not too smooth, you're going to want to use the white to take that line in rather than drawing that black line wider to smooth it out. Because if you draw it wider over that white area, you're not going to have anything for it to fill in. Sometimes I like to take a peek at the bottom layer to see if I want to keep that spot or not. At the bottom of that M, I decided to go ahead and take that away when I peeked at it. And then you just work around, making sure you've got a nice shape on all these lines and letters. Make them nice and smooth. Just about finished here. I'm going to show you then how you're going to get rid of the black so that you can keep the nice pretty watercolor that you have on that first layer. As soon as this is all done here, I'm happy with it. I'm leaving a little bit of texture. It doesn't all have to be exact. Get rid of those extra funny guys. Okay, so now we're going to take, I'll make sure the opacity is all the way back to 100. And then you're going to go over to the magic wand tool, make sure that it's not contiguous is not selected and it says a 0 tolerance. Select the black and delete. And then without changing the selection, you can go ahead and go on over to that first layer, copy. I control C. You can also go here, edit, copy. I'm going to select make a new canvas with a transparent background and paste. And you can see since the edges of this are right up to the edges of my text, I probably don't have a lot of extra little tag-alongs here. So to check the edges, I will right click on my image and click Edit Layer Style. There should be an option here called Stroke, and I just check that. I kind of use the size, adjust the size a little bit larger, and then I can see a nice contrast between what my painting is and where the edge of that painting is. On this one, it turned out pretty well. You can see there's a little bit of white space here from the light edge of the watercolor that didn't go away when I was editing it. And here's where you can. Usually what I will do is I'll just select a higher tolerance on the magic wand and just erase all of that. And you can take a peek at it and see if that's what you want to do or not. Just eraser across the whole thing to get rid of a lot of that white outline. Normally that does the trick. It's a nice, pretty clean area. There's sometimes are a few little edges I have to work with a little bit individually. This Y we're going to play with a little bit here. Change the tolerance a bit. Bring that one size down. And see, that makes it a little bit nicer there. So I'm going to go back just so that I'm not erasing what I don't want. And that's how in general, how I edit the text, the watercolor text that I do, going around each of the letters. It makes it so much faster than trying to erase right around each and every individual letter. This normally makes it a lot faster for me. So there's another area, a little white area I was messing with. You can clean up those. And the black outline there, that stroke, helps it to be easier to see what you're doing. Since often that's very light and the next thing I'm going to show you is how to do this on a flower. It's a little bit different process. In general, it's the same, but there are a few differences here. So same process, create a duplicate layer and take the levels up so that it's a little bit more contrast. And I'm using the levels bar because I like that better than the contrast bar. You could probably do either one, but then take the threshold, bring that up. See how that looks a lot different than the text did. So on this, you're just going to bring it to where you see a nice outline around the edge, something you want to work with. It doesn't have to all be black. You see the white petals are still going to be pretty white in there. Leave that. Filter, noise, dust, and scratches. That'll make it a little smoother for you to work with. It's already better. Now we're going to take and fill in those little white spaces. We're going to use the pencil tool. Zoom in. use the pencil tool, and we're just going to color it in. Start around the outsides. It's going to make it easier for you. And then you can use the paint bucket tool sometimes. Here's where you're going to want to probably make the opacity about 50% so you can still see what your background painting looks like. So here's where I needed to check to see the shape of that petal. So I took it away for a second and changed my mind and re-edited that. So then you just keep coloring in. I like to start with the outlines, like I said, so then you can use the paint bucket tool and it goes way faster. On those big ones, sometimes I just make the brush bigger. This is probably the most tedious thing about it, but in doing it in this way, it has gone a lot faster for me than just trying to color in white around the edges of the watercolor image. The higher contrast makes it easier to see, so it goes faster. You just go around the whole thing. Can get rid of those little stray dots here and there. I will tell you on the stem here as we go down. I think we're going to the stem next. Never mind, I'll tell that in a minute. Just color it in so that it's all one black shape. It looks gray right now because remember we have the opacity at 50%. You want it all colored in. Because I put my artwork on like t-shirts sometimes or mugs, I like to make sure that it's all filled in back there so that if we were to print it on a t-shirt, there wouldn't be like this weird hole in the middle of the flower where it was left white. So I want to go ahead and make sure that that is included. I'm going to get rid of that little wing up there, make it a little smoother, better petal shape. Get rid of that little white dot. Just getting the edges pretty is my main goal here. Okay, so this is what I started to tell you a minute ago. The stems, I probably could have gone with a little bit different threshold and had less work to do down here on the stems. It wouldn't have picked up all those really, really light uh, lines. Some of those are even just pencil lines that I didn't get erased fully. You can see after I've gone over it with the white, and when you see it get whiter, I'm just using the white pencil. That how light that is. That was picking up. So I would have had a little less work to do here if I had changed it a little bit, maybe a lower threshold. It still doesn't take super long. Continuing to clean up all the way around the leaves. Now, sometimes I will get to where I will just jump around and not just go in an orderly fashion, say clockwise or whatever around the picture. It does work a little bit better if I decide to do, say, all the leaves or work, clockwise or counterclockwise or something like that. Little bitty brush for that little skinny area in there. Nope, I'm not going to keep all that. Let's get rid of all. So again, to get those straight lines, I just click and hold shift and then click at the other end of my line. It makes a straight line. Makes it go faster. And ultimately, I usually get smoother lines that way too. Picking up lots of light colors in here. Then clean that up, make it nice and smooth and organized. Now you don't have to be super picky on all those little dots because I'm going to show you in a minute how to get rid of those. Anyway, we'll pause the video here. See that one flower, how much better that one looks than the one to the right. I'm going to pause here so you don't have to watch me edit the whole thing. Now it's all finished. And so we'll make the opacity up to 100. So it's all black. Click on the black, delete, leave that selection because you're going to want that. And you're going to go to the background, the layer over here, and copy. Just take it into a new document. I like a transparent background first. Now you'll notice it's off to the side and it does not fill up the whole screen. So that tells me there are some little stray dots that I didn't catch somehow on the other one. So we're going to use that trick with the layer style and stroke. And now I can see all those little dots. I can just go to the eraser. I choose pencil so that the edges are clean and just erase all those dots. Nice clean background. This is helpful if you're doing a screen print. Then you don't have those weird little dots that your screen's trying to pick up. And sometimes they're harder to see until you can zoom in. Those little ones by the leaf. Okay, so it looks pretty good. Let's get all the way down. So right click, clear layer style. And I'm going to select all, copy, go to new window again, transparent background, and there are my flowers. I play with the levels a little bit to make them stand out just a little bit. This is completely your preference. I like when I scan with my new scanner, for some reason the pinks don't turn out the same color as I painted them. So I kind of have to play with the hue and saturation a little bit to get them the color that I wanted in the first place. So that's what I'm doing here. What I don't want to lose is that definition deep in the flower petals because that's what makes those flowers pop. That really dark spot right there in the very middle, the very small area. That's what makes them look more real, more 3D, and I don't want to lose that definition, but I do want the color pink to be a little bit more vibrant. That's what pink was in the first place. So that's what I'm working on. Messing with hue and saturation. It kills me that you can't see the window, the adjustment windows. And so I'm sorry, it's just narration at this point, but okay, just how I want it. Pretty good. So then the next thing that I'm going to do adjusting colors. Making up my mind. Sometimes I'll take the hue and saturation and I'll select certain colors and then take the saturation all the way up so that I can tell which colors it's going to affect. Then test it to see if I like that adjustment or not. That's what I'm doing here. Clicking that little eyeball icon to change it back. So we're happy with it. You get to see a behind the scenes of how I do all my artwork. Okay, now we're going to take a new file. We're going to make it, select all, copy. And make a new file that's an 8x10 with a white background. Adjust the size a little bit. It looks about what I would want it to print. And add some guides. So view and then new guides down there at the bottom. And put them about halfway. So this is an 8x10. So the vertical guide is at 4 inches and the horizontal guide is at 5. And then that will snap to the center for me. So it's centered. Okay, get rid of those guides. They're not going to print anyway, but I like to get rid of them. And then merge all the layers, and then I'm going to save it. Like that. And that is my process for editing watercolor flowers. Thanks for sticking with me.